My husband died while I was pregnant. Then his mother used my grief posts to try to steal my baby. After I gave birth, she tried to take him from daycare. My husband's death tore my world apart. But what happened next? What his own mother tried to do to me, and to our unborn child, felt like a betrayal so deep, it still chills me to my core. She tried to take my baby. I was just 34, barely 2 months pregnant, when my husband, Barry, died in a horrific accident. Just like that, he was gone. My rock. My best friend. My everything. We had dreams, you know? Baby names picked out, nursery ideas, vacations we'd planned as a family. And suddenly, it all vanished. I swear, most days I couldn't breathe. The grief was a physical weight, so crushing I could barely take care of myself, let alone prepare for a baby. It felt like I was drowning, completely lost in a fog of sadness and fear. Every little decision felt monumental, and the idea of bringing a new life into this shattered world, it was terrifying. I didn't want to constantly dump my feelings on everyone around me. So sometimes, I'd just vent into the void of social media. Nothing dramatic, just raw, honest posts like, "Today's been impossibly hard. I don't know how I'll do this without him." Or, "I'm so exhausted, so scared for the future." Just me, being raw, honest, desperate to connect, trying to cope. A lifeline, really, or so I thought. I guess my mother-in-law, Linda, saw those posts. And in her mind, that was all the proof she needed that I was unfit to be a mom, that my genuine pain somehow disqualified me. Now, Linda and I were never super close. Before Barry passed, she was just overbearing. Always had an opinion on everything. Our living room color, baby names, you name it. Annoying, sure, but I brushed it off. Just a typical MIL, right? But after Barry died, she became intense. She was at my house constantly. At first, I actually appreciated it. I thought she was supporting me, and honestly, I desperately needed the help. She'd bring food, clean a little, sometimes just sit with me while I cried, offering a quiet presence. I was so grateful for those moments, truly. But then things got weird. The comments started. Subtle at first, almost like suggestions, then bolder, more pointed. "You know, I could take the baby for a few weeks after he's born, just to give you a break." Or, "If you're feeling too overwhelmed, maybe the baby should just stay with me for a bit." Every time, I said no. But she wouldn't drop it. It was like a constant drip, drip, drip of insinuation. She kept hinting, kept acting like I was utterly incapable, even though I was still working my job, paying bills, going to all my doctor's appointments, doing everything I was supposed to do. Yes, I was grieving profoundly, but I was fighting with every ounce of strength I had to keep it together, for Barry, for our baby. Then one day it hit. A letter in the mail. My heart nearly stopped. It was a notice that Linda had filed for guardianship of my unborn child. Can you even imagine that? This woman, Barry's own mother, was trying to legally claim I wasn't fit to be a mother. Her entire argument, my social media posts. She'd printed them out, meticulously, every single post where I'd expressed being overwhelmed, sad, scared. She used my raw, vulnerable grief as proof that I couldn't handle motherhood. It was a dagger to the heart. I was floored, utterly devastated. What grieving person doesn't feel overwhelmed sometimes? I wasn't posting about wanting to hurt myself or not wanting my baby. It was just me being honest about my feelings, but she twisted it into something monstrous, something to weaponize against me. Thankfully, the court saw right through her. The judge basically told her that being sad after losing your husband doesn't magically make you a bad mom. The whole thing was dismissed, thank goodness. But I was furious, and heartbroken in a way I hadn't thought possible. After that, I cut her off. Completely. There was no screaming match. No shouting. I just calmly, deliberately told her she would never see me or my son again. I couldn't trust her. Not after that. I refused to have someone in my life who would try to take my child from me. Of course, she immediately played the victim. Told anyone who would listen that I was keeping her grandson from her, that she was just trying to help. But I don't buy it. Not for a second. She knew exactly what she was doing. I still can't wrap my head around her endgame. Did she really think I'd just hand over my baby? Did she genuinely believe a judge would look at a few emotional posts and decide I wasn't good enough? It's just mind-boggling, truly. After that whole ordeal with Linda, my own mom stepped up. She became my actual rock. She moved in with me a few weeks before my due date, And honestly, I don't know what I would have done without her. She didn't hover. She didn't try to take over. If I was too exhausted to cook or fold baby clothes, she just did it. If I needed to cry, she sat with me. She never made me feel like I was failing. She just supported me. When I finally went into labor, things moved fast. Contractions started late at night, and within hours, we were racing to the hospital. My mom was amazing, getting everything ready, helping me into the car. While I was in labor, my mom called a few close family members and friends. I didn't mind. She was excited. I didn't even consider that one of them might tell Linda. But just an hour later, Linda showed up at the hospital. I didn't see her initially. I was a bit preoccupied, pushing a human out of my body. But apparently, she marched in, demanding updates from the nurses. My mom told her to leave. Linda refused, claiming she had a right to be there. Security had to be called. By then, I was so deep in labor, I barely registered what was happening. After I gave birth, I was utterly exhausted, incredibly emotional, and just trying to soak in those first, precious moments with my son. My mom was there, and for about 5 glorious minutes, everything felt incredibly peaceful. Then, Linda somehow made it into my hospital room. I still don't know how she managed it. Maybe she snuck past nurses or sweet-talked some unsuspecting staff member, but she walked right in like she absolutely belonged there. I was holding my tiny, perfect son, soaking in his newness. The second I saw her, my heart just plummeted. It was like a dark cloud entering the room. I asked her to leave, calmly at first. She wouldn't, so I got louder. She tried to play innocent, with that sickly sweet tone. Oh, I just wanted to make sure the baby was okay. For Barry. I told her I didn't care why she was there. I wanted her gone. But instead of leaving, she launched into this whole dramatic speech about how I was overreacting and how she was just looking out for the baby's best interests. I was stunned, speechless. After trying to take my son away before he was even born, she thought she could waltz into my hospital room, seconds after his birth, and play the concerned grandma. The audacity. She kept going, telling my mom she was enabling my bad decisions and that I was cutting her out for no reason. At one point, she even implied I was selfish for not letting her see her grandson, who was literally minutes old. I was still in pain, shaky from childbirth, exhausted, and just too tired to argue anymore. I pressed the call button for the nurse. I told her in no uncertain terms that I wanted Linda out. Security arrived quickly, and they finally escorted her away. But not before she screamed from the hallway that I was damaging the baby by keeping him from his family. I just broke down after she left. I was exhausted, overwhelmed, and just incandescent with rage that she had the nerve, the sheer audacity, to show up like that. Later, I found out she spent the whole day telling relatives I was crazy and overreacted by throwing her out. A few of them even tried to guilt me, saying, "Oh, Katie, let bygones be bygones." But I can't. She didn't just cross a boundary. She absolutely bulldozed it, then set it on fire. She tried to take my son, and now she's playing the victim? No. My job is to protect my son. And if that means keeping him away from someone who's proven they will not, be trusted, then so be it. About a month later, I had to go back to work. I was a nervous wreck leaving my baby for the first time, even though I found this amazing daycare. Great reviews, kind staff, solid security. Still, the anxiety was crushing. Before my first day, I gave them a very clear list of authorized pickups. Me, my mom, and one close friend. That's it. One afternoon, I was in the middle of my shift when the daycare called. "Your mother-in-law is here," the staff member said, "and she's demanding to take your son." My heart literally leaped into my throat. The blood ran cold. I told them, "Absolutely not. Keep him inside. Keep him safe. I'm on my way." They assured me she wouldn't get near him. But I grabbed my keys and bolted out of the office like my life depended on it, my heart pounding in my chest. When I arrived, there was Linda, standing outside, red-faced and furious. She spotted me. Immediately, she stormed over, yelling about how I was keeping her grandson from her, how she had a right to see him. I was having none of it. I told her flat out, "What you're trying to do is kidnapping." She tried to argue, claiming she was just checking on the baby because she didn't trust me. That's when I snapped. "You have no right to go behind my back. This is unacceptable." I reminded her she wasn't allowed to see my son, and if she pulled another stunt like this, I was going to the police for a restraining order. She started crying then, saying I was cruel. I didn't care. She tried to take my baby. There's no coming back from that. The daycare staff, bless them, were amazing. They documented everything. When she showed up, what she said, how she refused to leave. They promised to call the police immediately if she ever came back. Afterward, I just sat in my car, shaking. The thought of what could have happened if they hadn't been so vigilant, it made me sick to my stomach. Later, it hit me. How had Linda even found the daycare? I hadn't told her. I hadn't told anyone outside my trusted circle. I was so careful, I didn't even post about it on social media. That's when it clicked. She must have been watching me. I remembered seeing her car a few blocks from my house once, but I dismissed it as paranoia. Then there were those times in the store or the parking lot where I swore I saw someone who looked like her. I didn't want to believe she was stalking me, but at this point, what other explanation was there? I knew I couldn't let it go. The next morning, I called a lawyer. I explained everything, every single outrageous incident. The guardianship stunt, the hospital intrusion, the daycare attempt, and now, the chilling realization of the stalking. The lawyer listened patiently, then said I had more than enough evidence to proceed, especially with the daycare's meticulously documented report. I tried to keep things quiet while the paperwork was processed, but someone, probably one of the relatives Linda was whining to, must have tipped her off. My phone started blowing up. At first, teary voicemails, begging to talk things out like family, claiming I was overreacting. When I didn't respond, the tone shifted. Fast. The voicemails turned to pure, venomous rage. She called me selfish, spiteful, said I was turning her grandson against her and destroying their family. One message actually said, her voice dripping with malice, "If you think a stupid piece of paper is going to keep me away from my family, you've got another thing coming." That one really freaked me out, sent shivers down my spine. I called my lawyer immediately. They told me to save every message as evidence. I started documenting everything else too. Car sightings, voicemails, every weird coincidence. I even asked my neighbors to keep an eye out. Then one day, it escalated further. I was leaving my house and saw her car, parked down the street, just staring at my house. I'm not proud of this, but I just lost it. I walked right up, knocked on her window, and told her to leave. She rolled it down and immediately started yelling, accusing me of destroying the family, saying my son deserved to know his grandmother. I told her I didn't care what she thought. I wanted her gone. If she didn't leave, I was calling the police. That's when she smiled. A chilling, terrifying smile. "Go ahead," she said. "They can't keep me away forever." I walked straight back inside, my hands shaking, locked the doors, and called the police. She was gone by the time they arrived, of course, but I filed a full report and kept documenting every little thing. I was a fortress, prepared for war. The restraining order was finally granted a few weeks later. The relief was enormous. Legal protection, a small sense of peace. But I knew this wasn't over. Since then, she's resorted to petty tactics, bad-mouthing me to anyone who'll listen, claiming I'm mentally unstable, that I'm keeping her grandson from her. And yes, some relatives still try to guilt-trip me. "Oh, Katie," they'll sigh. "She's just a grieving mother. She's only acting out because she's hurting." As if her grief is a blank check for abhorrent behavior. But grief doesn't justify stalking someone. It doesn't justify trying to take someone's baby. It doesn't justify ignoring court orders or manipulating family members, weaponizing your own pain against others. I know I'm doing the right thing by protecting my son, fiercely protecting him. If Linda can't understand that, if she can't process her grief without trying to destroy mine, then that's on her, not me. Update 1. A glimmer of hope from Mark. Just when I thought things might calm down, a new chapter began. About 2 weeks after the restraining order, I got a message from my father-in-law, Mark, Barry's dad. I was surprised. He and Linda had been divorced for years, and they weren't on good terms. I'd never had issues with Mark, but after everything, I was wary. He said he'd heard about everything and just wanted to check in. He made it clear he wasn't trying to pressure me, wasn't trying to get involved in the drama. He just wanted to meet his grandson. I hesitated. After Linda, I didn't trust anyone connected to her. But then I thought about it. Mark had never been part of her nonsense. He always kept to himself, showed up to family gatherings, then left before Linda's chaos could engulf him. He seemed decent. And honestly, I felt a little bad. It couldn't be easy for him to watch his ex-wife unravel like this. Still, no risks. I told Mark I'd meet him, but it had to be public, and I'd bring a friend. He was completely understanding, which actually reassured me. We met at a park. I brought my friend Sam, who knew the whole story. Mark was already there. I was still on edge, but he couldn't have been more respectful. He kept his distance, didn't push for hugs. He just quietly played with my son. He even brought a little stuffed elephant, which my son loved. Watching them interact, it made me tear up. It was so clear Mark just wanted to be a grandpa. We chatted for a bit while Sam kept an eye out. Mark apologized for everything with Linda, said he wasn't surprised by her behavior, but didn't realize how bad it had gotten. He fully supported the restraining order. He wanted no part of her drama. The next day, Mark called me. Linda had found out about our visit. She absolutely lost it. Called him nonstop, left unhinged voicemails, ranting about how I was brainwashing everyone, turning the family against her. How could he betray her? Mark, thankfully, wasn't having it. He told her flat out. Her behavior was why she was cut off. If she kept harassing him, he'd block her. That, at least, shut her up for a bit. The relief I felt hearing that. After months of Linda's mind games, having someone else call her out felt like a huge weight lifted. And since she legally couldn't contact me anymore, she was stuck fuming on the sidelines while I focused on my son and rebuilding my life. For the first time in a long time, things finally felt peaceful. Update 2. The baptism stalker. I really thought the Linda thing was behind us. I was so wrong. Last weekend, my son's baptism. Small, intimate, just close friends and family. I didn't post about it. Kept the guest list tight. I didn't want Linda finding out, but I underestimated her determination and her pettiness. The morning started beautifully. My mom helping, Mark there early. Ceremony at a small church not far from my house. My son was calm. The service was perfect. Then, as we were taking photos outside, my mom whispered, "Hey, isn't that Linda?" I froze. Across the street, maybe 500 meters away, there she was. Just watching. Not even trying to hide. It felt like a scene straight out of a horror movie, my personal stalker making an appearance at my son's sacred day. At first, I thought she was just being creepy, making a point from a distance. But no, she started slowly, deliberately walking closer, her eyes fixed on us. My anxiety spiked. My heart hammered in my chest. I felt a cold dread wash over me. I told my mom and Mark. Mark immediately started walking towards her, a protective anger in his stride. As soon as she saw him, she stopped and started yelling, "I have a right to be here. You can't keep me from my grandson. This is my family." Her voice was shrill, cutting through the peaceful morning. I tried to ignore her, focus on my son, but she wouldn't stop. Mark came back. "She won't leave unless you talk to her." I really didn't want to, but I didn't want her ruining the day either. So I walked over. I told her she needed to leave. That set her off even more. She switched gears, from raging to tears, in seconds. Suddenly sobbing, rambling about just trying to be part of her grandson's life, how cruel I was. I didn't budge. I told her straight up, "You have no right to be here. If you cared so much, maybe you shouldn't have tried to take my son from daycare, or filed for guardianship, or stalked me." The tears dried up. Right back to raging. She screamed about me poisoning my son against her, how heartless I was. And then, she said my husband would be ashamed of me. I bet he's rolling in his grave right now. That was it. My breaking point. "I'm done entertaining your tantrums," I told her, my voice surprisingly steady despite the rage boiling inside. "If you don't leave this instant, I'm calling the police." She thought I was bluffing. So I called them, right there, in front of everyone. She must have realized I wasn't kidding, because she finally backed away. But she didn't leave. Oh no. She just stood there, 500 meters away, still watching. Like some weird, unhinged villain in a B-movie. My blood ran cold seeing her just standing there, a dark silhouette against the morning sky. When the police arrived, she immediately played the victim. I was just on public property, not causing trouble. Luckily, the officers were understanding. Once I explained the restraining order, they gave her a firm warning. If she showed up near me or my son again, she'd face actual charges. She put on a huge dramatic act, still insisting she was the victim, just trying to see my grandson. But the officers didn't buy her sob story. They made it clear, consequences. After about 10 minutes of trying to guilt trip everyone, she finally left, muttering about how cruel and selfish I was. The rest of the day was a blur. I was shaken, but I pushed through, focused on my son. My friends and family were amazing. Mark kept reassuring me I'd done the right thing. I still don't know what her endgame is. Does she think acting like a lurking ghost will win her back? Does she actually believe this behavior will make me trust her with my son? The scary part is, I don't know what she'll try next. I've added more cameras. Warned the daycare again. Spoke to my lawyer. Document everything. If she steps out of line one more time, I won't hesitate to press charges. I hoped things would get better after the restraining order, but now I know better than to expect rationality from her. For now, all I can do is stay prepared. Keep protecting my son from whatever madness Linda throws our way. Update 3. A hard one piece. Hi everyone. It's been a few months since my last update. And I'm honestly shocked to say this, but my son's first birthday party actually went smoothly. After everything with Linda, after all the emotional warfare, I was mentally prepared for some kind of dramatic chaos, a sudden appearance, an outburst. But thankfully, the day was truly special, a genuine breath of fresh air. I decided early on that I still wanted my son to have a relationship with Barry's side of the family. Everyone except Linda, of course. Despite her insanity, most of Barry's relatives have been incredibly supportive. Mark, especially, has been amazing. He's quietly supportive, never intrusive. My son adores him, and seeing them together, it just warmed my heart, seeing that genuine, untainted connection. His side of the family never took Linda's side. I knew I could trust them. So, for my son's first birthday, I invited everyone from Barry's family. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone except Linda. I won't lie, I was anxious. Part of me worried someone would tip her off, or worse, she'd just show up. I even considered hiring security. But eventually, I decided to keep it low-key and trust that the police warning had actually scared her. The party was wonderful. Simple backyard setup, decorations, snacks, a little smash cake for my son. Mark showed up early to help, and he's just been such a rock. My son adores him. Seeing them together, it warmed my heart. Barry's aunts and uncles were there, so kind. A few even brought old photos of Barry as a baby. I actually teared up. I know Barry would have loved that day. It comforted me to know his family was still a part of my son's life. The best part? Linda never showed. I kept nervously glancing out the window, half expecting to see her lurking, like a horror movie villain again. But nothing. For the first time in what felt like forever, I actually relaxed. Of course, because Linda can't help herself, her name still came up. Towards the end, a couple of Barry's cousins mentioned Linda had been ranting to anyone who would listen about how unfair it was that she wasn't invited. Apparently, she's still playing the victim nonstop, acting like I'm some evil mastermind trying to erase her from her grandson's life. One relative said Linda was claiming I stole her family. Another cousin just said, she's just mad because she knows she can't manipulate anyone anymore. Honestly, they're probably right. That police warning must have really rattled her. She didn't even try to crash the party. I don't feel bad about not inviting her. My son had a wonderful birthday, surrounded by people who genuinely love and care about him. And as far as I'm concerned, that's all that matters. My focus remains unwavering, to always protect my son, fiercely and unequivocally. And I finally feel a sense of hard-won peace, a peace I fought tooth and nail for.